our No Sugar Challenge prep course December. So we're still in the thick of eating too much sugar and overeating, and but we want to prepare for January 1st to start our No Sugar Challenge. So the way you can find that is you go to thewellnessway.com and you go to guides. There's 4 different challenges during the year. So January is our no sugar. April is our detox. So that's food detox, but also your household cleaning products, different things like that. So it's cleaning out all the stuff that is in your home that might be creating toxins and toxic burden for you. Then in, I think it's July, there's a protein challenge, increasing the amount of protein that we're getting in a day, figuring out better sources of that, our collagen proteins, our organ meats, not just skeletal muscle only. And then in October is our sleep challenge. So there's guides based on this for all of those. So for you, since you guys are coming, we're going to give you the hard copy for the No Sugar Challenge. And for anybody watching online, we'll have a PDF for it. But this is how you can get it yourself if you have family or friends. You just go here, you click on it, and then it'll ask for email, and it'll send you the challenge piece. And when you get there, you're going to see the downloads are right here. So this kind of starts you in with what does the No Sugar Challenge mean. There is a Facebook group. There's 30,000 plus people in this challenge group, and they have recipe ideas. They'll have questions throughout. What about this? What about that? I was reading on there this morning about something about if you cool your potatoes, that decreases the glycemic or the starch in there. So is that okay on the No Sugar Challenge? Yes, it decreases it. No, it's not allowed on the No Sugar Challenge. So it does decrease it. So does freezing bread. When you freeze it and toast it, it decreases the glycemic index on it. So there is a thing with cooling some of your starchy foods that it'll help with some of that. But for this challenge, we're just going to say no. So, let's just cut that out. You can have the other 11 months if you want to eat that stuff. So this is kind of a reset. So that's the Facebook group, and there's a lot of different Wellness Way docs on there because there's a lot of wellness offices around the country. So they answer stuff. There's a bunch of different articles here. So, sugar feeds cancer. So, the one thing I never see is them getting rid of the donuts, in the chemo room, They still have those things sitting there for you to have, even though they know, that sugar feeds cancer. When you do a PET scan to try and detect cancer, what are they injecting you with? It's sugar. Because sugar goes to cancer and it's radioactive sugar, so it lights it up. So that's how you find cancers in the body, because sugar goes to those things. So sugar may decrease the brain. Alzheimer's disease is now considered type 3 diabetes. So that's an article. 5 common benefits of going low or no sugar. So metabolic syndrome, working on healing your gut, you might want to avoid sugar. What does sugar feed? Yeast, bacteria, all those things that are present sometimes in too high an amount in your gut. And that can create brain fog and create, all sorts of issues along the way. Diabetes. So here's different training videos. This is our Saturday morning show called A Different Perspective, or ADP for short. So this was done very recently, but these go over the last 2 or 3 years. Diabetes, sugar alternatives, sugar truths and myths, sugar and cancer, top alternative sweeteners, sugar, what to stay away from, is sugar bad for you? So these are all different videos that you can watch, and they're in long form. So they might be 30 minutes, they might be an hour. So these are recipes. So lots of different recipes on here. And some of these sound pretty good. Thin mints, that sounds pretty good. So, but it's using some of the alternative sweeteners or different types of things as opposed to, looking at straight sugar. So these are all different recipe ideas in the challenge, okay? So chicken kebabs, guacamole, and then there's supplements too. So some people need some extra support to help with sugar cravings. Something like Gymnema is one. If you actually taste that, put it on your tongue, it will numb your sugar receptors. So it tastes like, you eat cheesecake and it's supposed to taste like cardboard. So you've had that. Okay, yes, it is nasty. So, but it is quite effective at taking away that sugar craving immediately, but also over the long term too. And when you cut out sugar, after that first 1 to 2 weeks, you will start to see in general less of a craving for sugars. And I've done this the last 4 years, and I definitely noticed a big drop in my cravings for things. I'm not hungry as much in between meals. I'm not wanting to snack later at night. So there's some really nice benefits to the no sugar. So, and then, sometimes we want to do some testing. So, some people don't know what their blood sugar is at before they start. So sometimes running a hemoglobin A1C, that's a 3-month look at your blood sugar, glucose, your insulin levels, which are not often tested for some reason by the hospital, but it gives you an indication, are you heading into insulin resistance? Insulin resistance it's kind of like the pre-diabetes. So, insulin resistance, then pre-diabetes, then into diabetes. So if you're testing your insulin, you're able to see what's trending sooner. Instead of waiting and looking at that 3-month mark, you can kind of see faster along the way. So this is kind of what this has, and you can see downloads, groups, articles, there's lots of different stuff here. So, but if we look at the actual challenge itself, so what is a no sugar challenge? So we're looking at January 1st through the 31st. The goal is to remove our ultra processed foods from the diet, stick to more whole foods like meats, and including organ meats, non-starchy vegetables, lower glycemic fruits, and other nutritious foods. So reducing sugar is important. It often will help with sleep. It'll often help with skin health. It often helps with our weight. It often helps with our mood. It often helps with brain fog. It often helps with energy. It often helps with gut health. It can also help with joint pains, stuff that chiropractors work on a daily basis. So everybody's different though. Some people will lose a good amount of weight from this. Other people have things that are blocking your body's ability to lose weight because there's other things happening. And that's sometimes why, someone will, drop 10 pounds way quickly, the other person doesn't. So there's other reasons for that. Sometimes our body is holding on to those kind of things or holding on to our fat stores because we have a lot of toxins that are built up. And that's a way for your body to lock it in a safe place as opposed to exposing it to your organs. So a lot of times sometimes in a female, if they're having trouble losing weight, that is one of the things. Sometimes there's toxins that need to be detoxed out of there, but it needs to be done in a proper manner. Not just, trying to lose a bunch and then it dumps all this stuff and puts a lot of stress on the kidneys or liver or pancreas or things like that. So sometimes it needs to be done in a professional manner. So, and too many people do these detoxes where, I'm going to chug a bottle of olive oil and then, do some grapefruit something and then, stick a coffee enema thing up my butt. And, it's crazy, like what people will do. And some of those things work, but there's a lot of people that have trouble with detoxes because their body isn't ready for it, or they're not doing it properly. You release a bunch of toxic stuff, you need things to bind to that and take it out. So just doing a detox just to move stuff through doesn't always work, especially if you're constipated. You've got to get rid of that stuff out of there. So otherwise it can create more problems. So who should do this challenge? Yeah, most people should do this challenge. But there's certain times and people who shouldn't do this. If you have cancer, oh yeah, you should be lower or no sugar, but probably also something like keto too, much higher in that protein. When someone's going through chemo, you really want to be fasting for that 72 hours around there. So you're allowing that chemo to have the best chance of destroying that cancer and starving the cancer out. So there's times to be on this, there's times not to be on this. But in general, this is a great thing for somebody to do. How do you start the challenge? So there's going to be a number of different sheets here. So one is a no sugar grocery list. So that'll help you with what items to use in your pantry, your organic produce, your organic meat, organic dairy. So there's going to be certain things. Now again, some of you have had food allergy testing, and some are, they have goat's milk and cow's milk on their food allergy list. So that's maybe a no for them. So maybe they're looking at something like sheep, or there's there's a lot of different possibilities. So we've had chicken eggs on ours for a long time. So we've been doing duck eggs, but we've also looked at quail eggs. So that's one that we've been doing. They're very small. So, I think I ate 9 quail eggs the other day or something like that. So, but we've been doing that. So here's foods to enjoy, and there's a page on foods to avoid too. So and we'll go through those. So how should you do the challenge? Yeah, so you want to look at the food you're eating and start to change some of those things out. So if you're using honeys and maple syrups and things like that, those can be great, but just not for this challenge. So, and it has some of the different sugars or alternative sweeteners, not sucralose, not, some of those things, but something like birch xylitol, stevia, monk fruit, some of those different ones are a little bit better. So the Wellness Way has food consultations. They have food consultants that can help if you have a food allergy test and you've got 30 food allergies and you're overwhelmed with what can I eat. They can help you. So that can be a really good source. How long does it take to adjust? It varies person to person. Usually within 1 to 2 weeks, you'll start to feel better. You might feel worse right off the bat. Your body is used to running on a certain amount of sugar. And sugar is not a bad thing. Meat has sugar. Everything has sugar in it. It's just we eat way too much of it compared to what we used to eat. When you look at 100 years ago, the ratios of carbohydrates to proteins and fats, our ancestors, our grandparents used to eat a lot more saturated fat. They used to eat a lot more cholesterol. They used to eat a lot more protein than what they do now. And then, we can get into that whole thing about, the food pyramid and how they were recommending, increasing your carbohydrates to 50 to 60% of what you're eating and reduce down your proteins and your fats. And, who's not confused about whether eggs are good, whether, butter is good, whether beef is good, whether, all those things have been, a controversy on whether it's good or bad. So, but what we're finding is the higher those sugars, the higher your triglycerides get, the higher your inflammation levels go, the more statins you go on. There was a study out of Israel that studied 500,000 patients. And what they found was the patients with the higher cholesterol levels lived longer. And they found that sometimes even triple what was recommended, be it 200 or 150 for your cholesterol, those people live longer. And they had better brain health. And they had less Alzheimer's and dementias than the ones who had very low cholesterols. So, and when they published that study in the British Medical Journal, it was, I believe it was Pfizer, who threatened and was going to sue them if they didn't retract the article because they're the number one seller of statins. But they say 500,000 people. I mean, that's not like 500. It's a huge study. And they found overwhelmingly that the higher your cholesterol, the better. Now, can it get out of control? Of course. I'm not someone that says cholesterol doesn't matter and it can be as high as you want and you have no problems. No. But I'm also not, cholesterol is unnecessary. We don't need it, even though our body makes 90% of it, and it should be as low as possible. We need cholesterol also. Cholesterol makes our testosterone. It makes a guy. It makes women, it supplies our sex hormones, our stress hormones. Where is cholesterol highest found? In the brain. And, what they find with babies is the higher your fats and cholesterol, the higher your IQ. So it's one of the reasons they supplement with fish oils and things like that for a mom that's breastfeeding, because it feeds the baby what it needs, fat. So when we're starving our elderly population, I think we're increasing some of the dementias and memory issues that we're seeing more and more in our society. It does. Yeah. Yes. It used to be 350, 300, then it dropped to, 275, 200, 225, 200. I mean, I've seen people that have gone to their cardiologist or the primary care and they say, we want this thing as low as possible. And those people usually feel lousy. You need cholesterol. You just need it. I mean, that's what makes our vitamin D. It's what makes so much of our things in our body. It helps with bile production for our gallbladder. I mean, our body doesn't make useless stuff. So our body doesn't make 90% of our cholesterol, and somehow, we need to watch out for the 10% that we can affect. I mean, if it's crazy high, sure, we can have a little bit of influence, but our body's making it for a reason. So cholesterol goes to areas of inflammation. So what we see is areas that are under attack or struggle, that's where cholesterol goes to. It's kind of like there's a crime, the police officer goes, we blame the cop for the crime because they're in the vicinity when they're, at the scene of the crime. But cholesterol is actually a healing agent. It actually tries to help with inflammatory processes going on in the blood vessels. Let's get back to sugar. Okay, so sugar affects energy levels. Sugar affects mood. What are the signs of sugar withdrawal? So headaches, irritability, fatigue, cravings. Drinking plenty of water with electrolytes, so magnesium, potassium, and a good sea salt, unrefined sea salt. Getting enough rest, eating your balance, rich in protein and fiber will ease the symptoms. So you might end up getting muscle cramps or leg cramps. Again, electrolytes are a great way of trying to take care of that. Or you can do an Epsom salt bath, or some things like that. Why am I not losing weight? So while some will have a miraculous transformation, others will see the scale not budge. This can mean your body is brilliant and is protecting you from something like toxins that are stored in fat tissue. We recommend getting tested with maybe a food allergy test, a gut test, or some blood work. So, can I still have fruit if I'm cutting out sugar? Yes, but only lemons, limes, avocados, and approved berries, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. These are lower glycemic fruits. Okay. How do I satisfy my sugar cravings without sugar? So you can use different things like cinnamon, vanilla, or cacao, or use some sugar substitutes. That has little effect on your blood sugar. Like I said, there's allulose, stevia, monk fruit, birch, xylitol, yacon syrup, never tried that, erythritol. So are sugar-free or diet products good alternatives? Not necessarily. Many of these are very high with artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose. Try and use the approved ones. So these are some of the foods to enjoy. Can you guys see that? So seeds, organ meats, mushrooms, lentils, organic grass-fed, beef, bison, lambs, chicken, pork, turkey. So almost any sort of meat. Fish, sauerkraut is a big one. Wellness Way loves sauerkraut. Chickpeas, garbanzo beans, all non-starchy vegetables. So avoid acorn squash, beets, butternut squash, carrots, cassava, and potatoes. That does include sweet potatoes. It does include, so do not have it on that. Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't say parsnips. So we just got a bunch of parsnips. So I think I'll be using that a bit. Coconut, coconut's really good. The fruits we already just talked about. Different oils, the healthy sweeteners, nuts, anything you want except for pistachios. Just it has a higher glycemic index. Goat's milk, sheep's milk, and cheeses. And we're also trying to avoid some of the highest inflammation foods. So that's one of the reasons it's not cow's milk on there. It tends to be more inflammatory, even if it's organic, even if it's raw, even if it's, for this, we're just trying to go with these kind of dairy issues. So unflavored collagen or beef gelatin, apple cider vinegar is good if you need to acidify your stomach. Aloe vera juice is good if you need to calm down your stomach. So if you're having a lot of heartburn, aloe vera juice is really healing for that. And, if my kiddos have some sort of issue where they're, something they ate isn't agreeing with them, I'll often give them like a shot of aloe vera juice. So I do a lot of apple cider vinegar myself, just to make sure I'm acidifying my gut. So, and I think that's a great way of, making sure that you're putting in the acid to make sure that any of the foods you're eating, that may have bacterias or things like that, they get that acid bath treatment. So, there's a recall on some sort of vegetable or meat almost every single week. So, spinach, it's this, it's that. So, I want good stomach acid for breaking down the protein, but also trying to neutralize any sort of bugs. So grass-fed beef or bone broth protein powders. That's a big one for me. I use a lot of these protein powders because it's an easy way of getting something like 20 grams of protein in just a scoop. So I did something this morning. I did chicken sausage, sage chicken sausage with chia seeds up in the corner there, and this bone broth protein powder that it was salted caramel. So which is pretty good of masking a bone broth protein. So, and I just put it in a little bit of like an almond milk, put it in the fridge, it solidifies, and you've got breakfast. It takes about 5 minutes to make. And it's super low carbohydrate, but you can get a good amount of protein in there. And so that's just an idea for a breakfast. So those are foods to enjoy. Yep.
Did you blend the sausage?
No. I ate that separate. No, the sausage did not go in the chia. So it's called chia pudding. So, and it's very handy because you can literally take it, in a bowl or a mason jar or whatever, and just take it wherever. So, okay. So those are what to enjoy. What do we need to avoid? All right, so any other fruits besides what we've already mentioned? You can eat any vegetable except for the ones that we talked about. You want to avoid alcohol. So booze it up beforehand. Christmas, New Year's. So just try and figure out ways to start decreasing the sugars on some of those. There are some seltzers, things like that have lower. But for this challenge, we want to try and avoid that. Ultra-processed foods, whey, pea, soy, rice, hemp, protein powders. So we're trying to avoid those. Any sort of artificial colorings. So if it's got a number after it, probably not good for you. So processed sugar drinks, soda and juice is easy, but for the healthy people, they like their kombuchas. And but again, you have to use sugar in order to get that fermentation going. So again, for this challenge, we're trying to avoid that. So cow's milk and cheese, pistachios, beans and soy, besides the garbanzo beans, breads and grains. So a lot of these. So this is tough for a lot of people. Oats, corn, wheat, rice, quinoa, pasta, buckwheat, and sprouted grains. Yeah, and they used to have buckwheat on there, so they don't have it there anymore. So, that hurts my heart. So a lot of vegetable, seed, or hydrogenated oils. So, we're using duck fat, we're using bacon grease, we use beef tallow, we use, I think olive oil is okay on here. Grapeseed is on here. Okay, that's a decent oil, but not for this challenge. So any of the artificial or natural sweeteners. So there's a lot. There's a lot of different, and some of these are really good, and some of these are just not. But again, we're just trying to cut the sugar down, because you'll find you just don't crave, the desserts when you go out to eat, the snacks. So here's the grocery list. Blowing this up again. So avoid all known food allergies. So if you know you're sensitive to something and it says it, skip that. So pantry items. So lots of different oils, nuts, seeds. So you can just take this and kind of go through. The Co-op has a lot of this kind of stuff. I mean, you can find some stuff at Hannaford's. I never shop Market Basket. My wife always goes there, so I don't know what they have there in terms of this stuff. But, this gives you kind of a nice, easy thing to start putting pieces together. And the Wellness Way just came out with a new cookbook. too. So, I mean, obviously there was a bunch of recipes on this challenge page, but they do have a whole cookbook too. We have out there also. So that is what is here in terms of the pages. So, like I said, the challenges, the articles, I would definitely recommend going in here and looking at some of this. I was watching this one at lunchtime. This was back in 2023, but he's really good.